Welcome to Clear Conversations, Entrepreneurial Legacies with your host, John Sleeting, an executive partner for Clearwater Capital Partners. Join John and his guests on this exclusive journey behind the scenes of extraordinary entrepreneurial families. In this series, we will dive deep into the stories of John's guests, who generously unveil the paths they've walked, the challenges they've overcome, and the wisdom they've gained along the way. Throughout these conversations, we explore their achievements beyond mere recognition, disclosing the distinctive perspectives that have shaped their entrepreneurial journeys. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to Clear Conversations, the Entrepreneurial Legacies series. I'm your host, John Sleeting, and today I'm joined by John Chapman. This is going to be a name familiar to most listeners, especially if you listen to episode 1. John Chapman is the founder and CEO of Clearwater Capital Partners, and he is a dear friend. You've listened to the first. If you haven't, I encourage you, go back and listen to that first episode, because in there we captured the history and the journey of John himself, why he launched Clearwater Capital Partners, why he created the firm that Wall Street didn't want, and our focus, which it has been now for nearly 20 years from the very beginning. So I really do encourage you, go back and listen to episode 1 to get caught up with John. It was about a year and a half ago that we posted that first podcast. And since then, a lot has transpired in our firm, in our growth, in our aspirations, and really the future of where we're going. And so in today's episode, John is going to join me in this conversation to give you, our listeners, a firm update, where we are, what have we built in terms of the infrastructure for the clients that we serve, for those that are seeking a firm such as ours and are in the exploration to listen in and learn a little bit more about who Clearwater Capital is, and also to share not only with prospective clients, but individuals within the industry that may be seeking an opportunity to unleash their own potential by joining a firm like ours. So we have a lot of big growth aspirations, not for the sake of growth and not for the sake of numbers, but for the life-changing value that we can come alongside you and to deliver so that you can go off and achieve your objectives in life and leave your own legacy. So with that introduction, I'm delighted to have John join me here in the studio, new studio since the first time. So a lot continues to change. Yeah. But John, welcome, and thank you for being here again.
John, thanks for having me back.
So it's a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
And so with a lot transpiring since the first episode, John, I'd be curious just to even start off with your reflections since the first episode, where we're at today, the last year, 2 years within the firm, life update, your journey update, the firm update, and just share
happy
with
to do
listeners.
so, John. Before I do, I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate you on the great success that this podcast has become. Who knew?
Who knew?
You have another career waiting for you as a skilled podcast host and interviewer. No, but you've really done a terrific job. And to give voice to the very many people who have participated in this channel and this platform, I've listened to every episode, and the inspiration, the lessons, all of what you originally envisioned it to be, it is, and more. So congratulations. Just a terrific job. Keep it going. I hope that your viewers are getting as much from it all as I am, but really very well done.
Oh, thank you.
So John, since we last spoke, or since I was last here to speak to the audience, we've been very busy. And it just continues to feel like there aren't enough hours in the day. But what we've been trying to do and are doing over the last, say, 4 or 5 years is laying the groundwork, building the foundation from which we then can have our hockey stick moment. We have proof of concept. This is no longer an experiment. We've reached a critical mass where we know we are a credible, real RIA firm of some stature in the industry. And so we've been busy just trying to figure out, how do we organize ourselves, whether it's our operating model, our tech stack, everything about us, our brand, the communication standards, things like this. How do we create a foundation from which we can then truly scale the practice to an entirely different level?
Yeah. And some of the statistics, because I went through with the team in our preparation, and just saying what are some of the highlights? And there's so many of them, right? I mean, we're directly managing about $1.5 billion, right? Advising on multiples of that in terms of total wealth for families because they're solving for not their financial account, they're solving for their overall estate structure and their overall tax and business ownership and liquidity events that we've helped clients navigate through and work through and where they're at. So a few items that jump out beyond some of the financial highlights. We've got 2 outside board members in addition to the partners at the board level. So that puts us right around 29 individuals in total that we have across the country in different roles. We launched a new business, Clearwater Capital Accounting Services, coming alongside people in bill pay and executive administration and just how they're operating and living their lives for family office type clients. We've expanded our offering. So if we even think about something with investment and portfolio management, which is what we've done from day one, but how that's expanded with public and private markets now and how we've approached to personnel, cyber, people. There's a few other areas I want to come back into a little bit more deeply. But when you step back and think about a couple things that you're just really proud of that the team has accomplished over the last couple of years, what are some of the items and maybe the images that come to mind for you stepping back and looking at this? Because we've now gotten to a size where in some ways it takes on a life of its own, right? You've moved from doing everything yourself because you were a one-man show,
right,
literally, to now there's all kinds of activities going on that we can't even stay on top of. We need the team to update us on all the activities.
Yeah, and John, you're absolutely right. From family office, what you've accomplished to the division of our firm into 3 practice areas for further clarity and further resource allocation to areas that we feel really will have great impact for our clients. I think the thing I'm perhaps most proud of is the fact that we continue to attract really, really great associates. The like-minded people who see, as Katie mentioned in the last episode, an opportunity for them not to just have a job, but to have a career, to be part of something special, to deliver life-changing value to our clients. And I know we say it all the time, and there isn't a time when I say it where it doesn't give me a little bit of a chill when I realize how real that is. Yeah. It's not just a platitude. It's not something we say from a marketing standpoint. This year we're redoing our website, as you well know, and we are about to launch it. And one of the things that we are adding for the first time, because the regulators have shifted their thinking on this point, is some testimonials. What do our clients say about us? And as part of that process, we opened it up to a handful of clients to say, this is something new. We've never done this before. We think of you in the work we've done together. If there is something you would like to share with us for this purpose of being quoted on our website, something that stands out in how we've managed the relationship and done our work, feel free to respond with whatever that might be. And we just threw it open, not knowing what we would get. But the responses were so incredible and heartfelt, and in some cases long and emotional. They had to be quite a bit. But it was really gratifying to know that we are delivering on that promise. And I think our associates feel that every day, that we are not just coming in to push paper and to process things and to have a job, but to have a career and to be part of a family that takes very seriously the enormous responsibilities we have to getting it right.
Yeah. So as I want to come down 2 different tracks. One, you talked about the 3 business areas, the 3 primary business areas, the way we look at that, and go into depth, because we're hiring in all 3 of those areas. In terms of the client-facing relationship management. And then we also are structured with centers of excellence and what centers of excellence look like. So first, let's talk through those first 3 key business areas. What are they? How are they structured? Who are they serving? And what does that look like for individuals that may need service in those 3 different areas?
Sure. We were kind of one big blob for a very long time. And then I read a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. And as is often the case, too often perhaps for some of our teammates, I read, I think, I ideate, and I bring ideas for us to then work on. And sometimes there are too many ideas. But the idea is behind the book, and the thesis of the book is, don't worry about the competition. Create. Make the competition irrelevant. And so that translates for us into creating a business model that would be very difficult for Wall Street to replicate. partly because of how people on the Wall Street side, the wirehouses, even the big banks, how they're compensated, how they're organized. And we had the opportunity, as we say so often, to be the David in the world of Goliaths and venture off to do something a little bit differently. So we looked at our practice and we saw three distinct areas that we could focus on and articulate value propositions to. Family office, which is the group that you are leading as the managing partner now, tremendous opportunity. And I think this is really the future of the firm. The bulk of our practice still revolves around the traditional wealth management or the private client practice. Jeff DeHaan is going to be the managing partner there. And not that we ever set out to be in the institutional space, but we find ourselves now there with some significant assets. We've created institutional advisory services as one of the distinct practice areas, and that's perhaps one of the business segments that stands out most from the other two. But all three share the common vision of delivering world-class advice to people who are simply trying to navigate all of the many choices and the complexities of the world that we live in. A tagline of ours for many years has been bringing clarity to a complex world. And that was true when we first said those words, and it's even truer today as things evolve.
Yeah. And so there's a little bit of the B2C, right, business to consumer that ends up being family office and private wealth. A little bit more of the B2B, which is the institutional of working in a wide array, right? It's qualified, non-qualified plans, working with boards and committees, working with pension funds, institutional money management. That really all falls under that institutional piece in the way that we're trying to approach it. And then we end up with the centers of excellence that come into play alongside those. So when we say centers of excellence, what does that mean? Like, how does that manifest itself?
So we think of them as enterprise functions. And the industry so often had traditionally organized themselves around pods or teams of people that were kind of self-contained. We recognize that we could have a much more leverage and scalability by creating these centers of excellence, whether it's the advanced planning group that serves all areas of the firm. It could be operations. It could be a portfolio management. Our portfolio management team is very, very strong under the leadership of Tyler Beechler. And I think that by looking at our operating model differently and investing heavily, not only in the technology, but the people to support all three of the practice areas, that's going to make a big difference and give us a lot of advantages going forward.
Yeah, and those centers of excellence, we keep growing. I mentioned the launch of the new business and accounting services as an aspect. So there's certain things that we always think about in terms of, well, what do we build? Yeah, what do we borrow? What do we buy? Right. And so when we talk, well, a little bit later, we'll talk about mergers and acquisitions and what that looks like in terms of capabilities. Who are we partnering with out there that could provide the services back to the families of things that we'll not get involved with, but there's great collaboration opportunities to take place.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I mean, Tyler, what he's done with investment portfolio management, the capabilities that he's built back and even to the private markets. We had a meeting earlier today with the planning team. We getting together, best practices, case studies, reviewing the building of the education with the team. Kevin Nolte, CPA, coming from Ernst & Young, and what he brings to the integration of this. We're not doing people's tax returns, but how the tax strategy plays into it. Just hiring a new individual out of Deloitte that came over to us. So building the capabilities that are there. I really do step back and go, centers of excellence isn't a term. I mean, the team and how they're approaching things is with excellence.
Yeah.
We'll come back to character and competency in a moment, but then there's also functional, right? As a business, as an enterprise that we are, and not even a practice, we have functional areas too, and we expect the same. Can you talk a little bit about the functional aspects of the business when we think about IT, finance, HR, and
yeah?
How
So
we
have to cover all those bases too. Somewhere along the way, John, we recognized that what we were doing was special and it was going to become much bigger than either of us ever expected years ago. The phrase "we're going to need a bigger boat" was said often to kind of reflect this revelation that was unfolding right before us. That what we were doing, clients that really resonated with clients, and clients wanted more. So we went from a lifestyle practice. You're quite right in the application of that term, to a mindset that we are building an enterprise. We're building a business. And that was a pretty significant shift in the thinking. We recognized then that we had to be able to be world-class in our own internal finance management. So a CFO was going to be necessary. We recognized that our greatest asset is our people. So we better pay attention to their needs and to continue to challenge and reward them in the right way. So that brings in HR into the mix. Technology was always going to be something that we need to focus on and be better at always. So we, in addition of the centers of excellence, we are doing these enterprise functions, or we're building these enterprise functions to support those other areas of the business.
And so we had a new board member join this year as well, right? So tapping into even the board and outside perspectives. Can you share a little bit of a highlight of Joe joining the team?
Yeah, Joe has actually been a friend of mine for many, many years, going all the way back to our college days. He started and really ran for many years a very successful advertising firm. And he realized at some point in time that organic growth was great and they were doing quite well, but if he really wanted to scale, he was going to need to get into the M&A game and look for like-minded firms to bolt onto his. And he did so with great success. And one of the reasons he joined our board is to bring that expertise into the conversation with us, because we have similar aspirations to grow non-organically in the years ahead. It's really amazing, John, as you know, what we've accomplished with 3 yards in a cloud of dust, one client at a time. We have not acquired books of business. We've not brought a lot of people in from the industry.
Right.
And now that we have this proof of concept and we know who we are, we know what our vision is, and we're very grounded in all that, and we've worked on the infrastructure and have the foundation, it's time to really open the door and see if there aren't like-minded people out there that want to be part of this journey that we're on and deliver the life-changing value that we feel that we offer our clients.
Yeah.
And they're out there. And I'm very excited to work with Joe to figure out how do we increase the velocity of opportunity? How do we get the word out in front of the right people so that we can have productive conversations and truly vet whether or not they might want to join Clearwater Capital Partners?
Yeah. And even with our prior careers, from a corporate viewpoint coming in, having Heather and Joe on the board to provide an outside perspective is hugely valuable to us, right? So that you can get outside of your own mind and be challenged to really think about how we approach this and have the expertise, whether we've done M&A in the back, in the past, working with clients on that, as we look at that for ourselves moving forward. And then having someone like Al, as our CFO, CPA background, and how he's navigated all of that from proper structuring and thinking about things from the tax end of it. Danuta in HR, who's dealt with integrations over time. I mean, really, you look around the talent that we have in the team in a very expanded level is significant. I'm so excited about the team that we have and proud of those capabilities. Now, one item you mentioned in the episode number 1, which was character and competency. Yeah. And you've said it a few times since then, probably at least once a day, if not multiple times a day. But come back to, what does that mean? Why is character and competency non-negotiable?
John, if you think about it, it means everything, because it encompasses all of what our clients expect from us and all of what we want to be able to bring to them. So the non-negotiable part of it is going to always be true for us as a firm. We start with character first. We need to know that we have people who are properly motivated, who have a desire to do the right thing, to put the client at the center of the equation, as opposed to enriching themselves or seeing this as somehow a rung on a ladder to someplace else. We exist, as our purpose statement says, to inspire and empower our clients to live with joy, confidence, and a spirit of abundance. And that has to resonate with the people that we are bringing on board to be with us at Clearwater Capital. That's a character issue. Are they really in it for the right reasons? Yeah. And do they really have that passion to serve people? And then, of course, it goes without saying that what we do is complicated. And every day it seems like the scope of information and expertise that we need to have some command over in order to be effective at what we do is just growing exponentially.
Yeah.
And I think back to, just 20 years ago when we were first thinking about starting the firm, it was a very different environment. you didn't have nearly the range that we have now and no one person could do it on their own.
Right.
So it only reinforces this centers of excellence concept that we need to have real experts in these pockets to be able to, because you're not going to know all of it. I'm not going to know all of it.
No one can. Right?
No, right? And so by creating this force multiplier of centers of excellence, I think that we're going to be in a really good shape. So that's the competency side.
Yeah.
Character and competency, one without the other, doesn't get us very far.
Yeah. And the competency piece, and I actually want to read through this, and I'm sure one of the team members will think I missed something in the mix because there's so many accomplishments. But if we step behind, and I'm going to read this to make sure that I don't miss the items on the list. But Investment News came back and recognized Jeff DeHaan on their hot list, right, of top individuals. Family Wealth Alliance recognized both James and Tyler on our team, James Chapman and Tyler Beechler, as young professionals, those under 40. And they only recognize 25 people every 2 years within the industry. And we have 2 team members that were recognized in this space in the multifamily office work by what James and Tyler have done. Tyler's engagement with the CIO, the Chief Investment Officer Roundtable within Family Wealth Alliance with other multifamily offices, and James' recognition by Forbes, as well as accomplishing and completing his Wharton curriculum in executive leadership. Looking at those items, the team overall looks at us as the best places to work now, 3 years running in terms of the dynamic. Carrie O'Connor in our institutional team, in great leadership that she provides there, recognized by the National Association of Plan Advisors as a top woman in the industry. So Carrie's recognition. Melissa also being recognized as a woman to watch by Investment News. So another Investment News recognition. Jacob and Braden each have accomplished the Accredited Wealth Management Advisor designation. Rocky, the CFA, the Chartered Financial Analyst. Kevin Nolte, the Certified Financial Planning designation. Greg Davis is the co-president of the Northwest Suburban Estate Planning. So there are others that are on here too that I go down the list. And the team that we've challenged them on is we all have to continue to increase and develop our competencies that we're trying to deliver, right, and learn and stay on top of the ever-changing world, changing policy, the global dynamics, and also the nuances of legal tax policy. Not that we're attorneys, we're not giving legal advice. Not that we're accountants giving tax advice, although we have CPAs on the team. We do have an attorney on the team, not practicing law, but licensed, because the competency level is so important because we owe that back to our clients. And so it's just fantastic on the competency side that continues to get developed. We have others going through the certified exit planning because we walk alongside a lot of clients on their exit. So the competency aspects of where the team is at is that non-negotiable. Why? Because our clients deserve the absolute best. So when I step back and I think about if I'm a client listening to this, right, what would we want those clients to know about the team that's serving them? How would you wrap that up to say, no, clients need to know that this character and competency thing isn't just words or a communication desire. It's how we're trying to run the operation for their benefit. How would you?
Yeah, no, John, that's a really great observation. It's a long list, and obviously you didn't even cover everything that's there. But I think that if you step back and you realize that in a professional services organization such as ours, it's a business of intellectual capital. We're not manufacturers with equipment out on the floor that needs to be maintained and that needs to be modernized from time to time in order to be effective in what it is that any manufacturer might be manufacturing. Ours is intellectual capital, and to solve problems and to come alongside clients to really best understand not only what they most want to do and where their passions are, but then to deliver the solutions that moves them with confidence towards the positive outcomes that they want. And as in any organization, if you bake something thoroughly enough into the culture, you tend to get that result, and we shouldn't be surprised. And from day one, we have highly valued the certifications and the advanced education and knowledge, and keeping that saw sharp and making sure that we were investing. That's something else that we've done as an organization and continue to do. We're very, very generous in supporting education initiatives and experiences for our team members to get these credentials and to maintain them.
Yeah.
And I think that has paid off for us in a very big way. But make no mistake, this is not the ordinary firm. In this regard, I think we stand out head and shoulders above many, many others in our commitment to this concept of intellectual capital and making it real so that we can bring best-in-class solutions to our clients.
Yeah. So on the character side, one of the items that stands out for me, back to your vision for the firm and our giving back, right? How do we develop, create opportunities, empower our client families that we serve, but also give back to the communities that we live in. We look at ourselves as global citizens, right? But there's a national footprint, and then there's a local that comes into play. On this podcast, we've had the conversation about our Clearwater Capital Foundation multiple times. I'd be curious to your reflections on the foundation over the last many years, because one of the statistics again that stuck out to me in preparation coming into this conversation is we started giving in prior years over 6 figures a year coming out of the foundation to end charities. The team 100% participates, whether their financial contributions into it, time to the foundation and the foundation activities, that our team is fully engaged with what the foundation is doing. And even coming into 2024, we had a 52% increase in what we gave to end charities and beneficiaries, right? Some of which, that have individuals that won't be our clients in the end, but they're making a difference in the communities that we're living in and making a difference through those organizations that we would never do, right? We wouldn't have the competency to deliver what they do. But in the character, we absolutely support what they're doing with that focus on women and girls, people in need, veterans and our military services as pillars of what our foundation is. I was just, again, you can't stay on top of all these things even within our own operation on a day-to-day basis. And we get these summaries from the team of the activities that are taking place. It's humbling. You just get a big smile on your face. Yeah. And you've got one right now too.
I do.
So share a little bit.
From day one, I really felt that we needed to be fully integrated in the communities that we served, and we needed to care about what our clients cared about in some respects. And we just are naturally philanthropic. John, you are, your family, my family has been for a very long time. And the formation of the foundation was just a natural expression of that. But fast forward to something that we worked on more recently, and that is the purpose statement that I just mentioned. How could we possibly inspire our clients to see life with a spirit of abundance if we didn't have that spirit ourselves? And, the opposite of a spirit of abundance is a spirit of scarcity, where you have to hold on to every last dollar and think about limitations and look through the world through that lens of limitations. By putting a foundation out there and having it grow as big as it has, we are saying to the world that we ourselves have this spirit of abundance, that we want to contribute, we want to participate, we want to make a difference. And what's really, really cool about the whole thing is how much it has become kind of the desired slot for members on the team to be on that giving committee, to be involved, and how everybody volunteers at our car show every year and in other things that the foundation is doing. It's become a part of our culture. It's a source of joy for our employees. It's a joy for me to know that there are people we are having a positive impact on who we will never meet.
Right.
And will, like you say, never be clients of the firm, but who are out living their lives, and we can come alongside them in important ways and make a difference there too.
Yeah. I think it's just a great testament to the character of the individuals, but also the collective of the team,
right,
in what we're trying to do, and the people that we're serving and how they come alongside that. Katie, in the last episode, but in prior conversations with her, it's where everyone feels part of something even bigger, right? Mm-hmm. There's the relationship aspect of what we serve the clients to do, but the individuals that show up like at the car show or individuals across the country that have contributed to what we're doing within the foundation is just really stepping back and going, everybody recognizing, we're all part of something bigger than ourselves, is just a testament to that character piece too, as people are out there. So as we develop the character of the team. We're hiring into these different areas. We're hiring into centers of excellence. We're hiring into the three key areas that you highlighted in terms of the practice areas, if we want to call it that, the service offering areas of institutional, private wealth, and family office as we continue to grow. All the growth to date has been organic. Mm-hmm. And now we're talking a little bit about mergers and acquisition. But before we get into the M&A side of the world and our view into the future, it's been organic. So what's the journey been? Why organic to date? Why is it focused? Because from day one, when you started the business, there wasn't like you bringing over a book of business, so to speak, mm-hmm. and starting it. It started with dollar one, client number one, coming into play, and then growing it from there. So why the intentionality of organic first and foremost from the start of the firm?
John, I think it boils down to the fact that we had a vision that we were deeply convicted on for what we could or should ultimately become. And if early on we opened the door and invited a lot of other legacy industry players into the mix before we had established ourselves with a critical mass and with great clarity and that foundation I spoke of earlier, we might have been pulled in a lot of different directions with a lot of different visions. And so we took it slow, and we recognized that it was going to take time. Organic, in many ways, is much harder to get to the bigger numbers and to the bigger size. But it really served us well because it allowed us to just think very carefully and take one step at a time and be very intentional with how we put ourselves together. And I think now what is there is a testament to all of those years, and it's been a lot of hard work. I think what we have now will attract the like-minded people we want to be on the team and not people who want to steer us in a different direction or encourage us to become something other than what we want to be. Yeah. So now we're there, and it's a perfect time to transition and to be able to offer something of real consequence to serious players in the industry who are looking for a place to apply their craft and do great things.
Yeah. And maybe even before we move into that part of it, right? Just for our pausing with the clients that we do serve, right? I mean, if everything was to end right now, I think the whole team, right, just shares this level of humility, gratitude for all of our existing clients. If we didn't bring on one more client, we just have and get the opportunity to serve so many fantastic people that in turn inspire and encourage us, with confidence, joy, and a spirit of abundance, right? Yep. I mean, it really is very symbiotic in that nature together in who we roll up our sleeves for. We don't want to be all things to all people, but the people that we serve, we wake up every day and give it our best, right? They're not locked into long-term contracts. We can get up and deliver our character and competency to them in this meritocracy that's like we've got to be delivering that life-changing value to them over time. And just so grateful for the people that have placed that trust in us that have gotten us to this point in terms of growing the firm and providing the capabilities so that we can serve more people like them. Mm-hmm. So I do look at it as going, wow, the clients that we serve, thank you. The individuals that are checking out a firm like ours saying do I want to be served by Clearwater Capital, right? Hopefully they're taking this in because we mean everything that we say here. And we invite that conversation, right? We invite that dialogue if they're out exploring, because every conversation, everybody's come to us one at a time. And the team members I mentioned earlier, we're at about 29 people now, including Joe is the most recent board member. And those individuals, right, didn't just spring up out of thin air. They've come from all different industries and perspectives. And when I say that, right, I look at my own story in terms of coming from GE Capital and moving over and not growing up, so to speak, in this industry. But we do have people that have come from large brokerage firms. We have people that have come from banks. We have people that have come from other aspects and dynamics, third-party administrators into institutional with another one of our recent hires in Carter. So the team that's come together under that lens of character and competency that's allowed us to continue to build the capabilities for individuals that are prospective clients so we can serve more. So now let's turn the page from this organic, here's the story, we're going to continue to do that. So we still welcome the introductions and the referrals that has gotten us clients in Western Europe, 38 states in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, continue to grow in that way. We want to continue to build the capabilities, serving our existing families, but then also inviting others into this. So why is it a good time now to look at this M&A topic? Because that's been out there, aggregators buying up a lot of firms, right? We get calls all the time. It's like we've told you from day one, we're not looking to sell. But why is it now a good time for us to be thinking about that?
John, I think that very few people are attempting to do what we're doing. They're out there, but very few. The industry almost seems to be bifurcating into two different directions. You had these RIAs start up as independent players that are now being all gathered up by the aggregators. You have the wirehouse side of the industry, or the big institutional side with the banks and others who are basically trying to look more like an RIA. But the space that they can't quite navigate themselves to is that true boutique RIA, that independent player who exists only for the client and is built around the client. And again, I would point to another book that I read that I found just fascinating as to why now. The book's title is 10X is easier than 2X. And you think of our own history, and just getting to that first billion in assets under management felt like it took forever. And then the next 500 million came in 10 minutes, it seems. I'm exaggerating, of course. But I think that there's something to be said about the mindset that the focus on nonlinear growth, on hitting that hockey stick moment where you have all of the stars lining up and you're doing the right thing for the right reasons with the right people. Right. There's a tremendous opportunity. And we are in this niche right now where we can be a boutique firm at the very high end of performance and attract other like-minded professionals who see themselves similarly and do something that the bigger players can't do and the smaller players can't do. They get aggregated into another large system of sorts. Right. And I think we are just in a sweet spot right now to really hit that growth button.
So when you founded the firm, there was a lot that tied into the fiduciary standard.
Yeah.
And that was a big impetus too, of going, how do you sit on the same side of the table with the clients that we do to this day? But that was still new and a little bit revolutionary back at that point in time. Can you remind listeners first of you go back to that again, I encourage everyone to listen to episode 1, right? So we don't revisit all of that. But if you go back to that nearly 20 years ago when you started Clearwater Capital, and it was about the fiduciary standard, what was it about that was the motivator for you to say, we need to be different, and founded the business?
I guess it started with just a logical observation, kind of apply the golden rule, if you will. That's what I would want if I were the client. I would not want conflicts of interest. I would not want to go to a meeting or into a phone call with my advisor wondering if it was my best interest that we were talking about, or did he have an angle, or did he have an agenda that somehow was different or possibly in conflict with my own. Not long after we started the firm, the Great Recession hit. Turns out it's really hard to start a firm in our space as we go into an economic period of turmoil like we did. But out of that came some legislation where there began a debate or a conversation industry-wide around, well, when is somebody operating as a fiduciary and when is somebody operating more as the traditional salesperson? And of course, I knew this for having been on Wall Street all of these years. I knew that legally speaking, most of the practitioners, most of the brokers out there were a point of delivery for product, and they were operating under a lower standard of care, certainly not a fiduciary standard, that clients didn't fully understand. The idea of disclosing conflicts of interest was not at the forefront of thinking at the time, but then the Great Recession comes, and now the question's on the table. Where is the counterparty risk, and what are the things that are behind the curtain or are hidden to the client? Anyway, that only reinforced our vision that said, hey, no, the fiduciary standard, to have the affirmative obligation to act only in the interest of our clients and to not have conflicts of interest, to be there solely for them, to have our revenue source be solely our clients, and no money is being flowed from other sources, which can get into your thinking about certain decisions that you need to make. And that worked really, really well. Fast forward the tape, while I know the regulators haven't really figured out how to enforce a fiduciary standard or a best practice around that, it has been our operating model from day one. It continues to be, and it has given us just tremendous advantages in appealing to clients who want to be served in that capacity.
So there's some individuals that could be still sitting in those organizations. That could be of high character and high competency.
Absolutely. Yep.
And they're in those organizations, but by doing their job, they're beholden to their employer, right, in terms of how they're approaching things. So if they were to set out, right, or if you sitting in the chair that you're giving your self-advice from 20 years ago to that person that was you today, right, sitting in that chair, being on the street in a traditional organization that has to deal with that maybe internal conflict like you did, that was the catalyst for you starting Clearwater Capital. What advice would you give yourself 20 years ago, given what you know today? So and say it another way, what advice would you give to a listener out there that could be sitting in that chair right now that goes, well, wait a second, right? I feel like this inner turmoil between doing my job that I'm being asked to do, but how I really want to live in spirit to that fiduciary standard, if not, the letter of the law, so to speak.
Yeah. So I'm fond of saying that if I had known years, even before 20 years ago, that this would be as much fun and the adventure and the ride that it's been and continues to be, I would have done it much sooner. But the practical matter is 20 years ago, it was really, really hard. There was no trail for us to follow when it came to becoming an independent RIA, not a registered investment advisor of a different or a separate RIA, but to be our own RIA. Mm-hmm. That was not a well understood, well articulated path for people in our industry to take. So it's very different today. Now that pathway does exist. I guess the advice I would give or offer to people who are contemplating their forward movement is it's great. And it's really a much better place to function. It's all the things you've heard it to be, and it's a much, I think, better place to serve clients, or it's a better format to serve clients. Secondly, I would be hesitant to just hang a shingle and try to start my own firm, because one of the things that we've learned, John, is how hard it is and how long it takes to put all the pieces in place to have a truly robust platform where we can offer lots of different things and be in private markets and have a foundation and attract the best talent, and to have that critical mass and the resources that we can invest in our business the way we do. It would be really, really hard to just do what I did 20 years ago. It was hard for different reasons back then, but right now I think that there are players like us who are far enough along that catching us would be really difficult.
And in the world's changed quite a bit, continues to change. One of our thematic areas that we like as an investment that's not going away is with respect to cyber technologies, cyber risk management, how that gets approached. So we not only like that as a thematic investment area for ourselves and for clients, but how we think about the investment in cyber for running the business. Can you talk a little bit about cyber risks in the industry, in the business, for clients, and how we're approaching that topic and how people should be thinking about it?
Yeah, I'll talk about cyber specifically and then broaden the thought to all innovation and disruptive technology, this continuous movement in how things used to be done or how they will be done in the future. We recognize, as many other players have, that the cyber criminals out there are becoming extraordinarily clever, and they have resources available to them. These are no longer people sitting in a dark basement trying to hack into your computer. These are businesses. And, in other countries, you'll see photographs of 30, 40 people in a room all sitting at terminals whose only purpose is to wreak havoc in your life and to try to steal your identity and do terrible things. Because of that, we see an opportunity to come alongside our clients and research and invest in protections or in best practices and protocols for them to do with us and under our guidance and through us things that would be very difficult for them to do on their own. So we have, over the course of the past year, put a lot of energy into what is the cybersecurity solution that we need to bring to our clients to help solve that potential problem in their lives. with all that we're doing on our phones and our computers and all of the connectivity out there, it can be very overwhelming to most of us, and we needed to have a much more robust solution for that concern.
Yeah, and it is the piece that keeps us up at night, right? I mean, that's the area of the introduction of artificial intelligence, right? There's the good. Every evolution of technology has got a good side to it and a not good side to it, and the application. And Jeff DeHaan, one of our partners and chief risk officer, in some of the just how artificial intelligence gets used to augment and interpret people's voices and how that gets played back, the processes and the protocols that our operations team and compliance team have put in place to protect individuals' assets and what they've built, not just investing, but how do we protect that and protect the individuals that we're serving. So the challenges are just continue to increase and become more and more daunting for someone as they think about their firm and where they're at and fiduciary standard and dealing with regulators, appropriately so, right? And we think that is the starting point, right? That our practices should go above and beyond with just what the law says you need to do and how we operate. And then this cyber technology and artificial intelligence, and how do you protect people against that so we can even do the work that we do with the people that we serve? It is really daunting in that way. So when you think about what we may be offering, like what would that be to someone out there, whether they're in a bank, whether they're in a brokerage firm, whether in a smaller advisory or an advisory practice or a small firm, they're looking at saying, I'd want to be part of a bigger team, that they should be picking up the phone and giving us a call.
I think it's everything, John. I think it is an existential risk when it comes to not getting it right. And the regulators are saying the same thing. Regulators are saying you really need to pay attention to this. You need to invest in this. And again, back to the idea of us being a David in the world of Goliaths, we have an agility. We have the talented people to help us figure out and map a solution for our clients in ways that the other players just aren't prepared to do yet or aren't willing to do. It's a costly endeavor, but we think it's going to be very worthwhile. And I think our clients are going to be very pleased when we roll it out here this year that this is a response to a problem that they needed a response, with. It's just a big deal.
Yeah, and individuals that are trying to recreate that, right? They're looking maybe for a change. They get to tap into that, right? So a little bit of that seat at the table, so to speak, with the broader team, the capabilities that we've brought into play. I wrote an article last year for Family Office magazine on the evolution of the U.S. multifamily office, because there's a global concept regarding what family office is, and focused particularly in my writing on the evolution of the U.S. multifamily office and these capabilities, the family's needs that we're serving, the breadth of those needs, the network that's out there that we can tap into through Family Wealth Alliance, and all of this access and this infrastructure to be able to bring that to bear for individuals. I think you speak to it as like unleashing the potential for individuals so they can turn around and deliver that life-changing value back to the people that they're serving.
Right.
So if someone was to say, I want to be part of Clearwater Capital, what are you offering to somebody that would say that I want to be part of the team?
Well, John, I think that we offer a lot, but I perhaps it boils down to maybe just a couple, three things that I would highlight. First, I think that we offer an entrepreneurial culture, and with that, actual equity ownership. Everybody in our organization is an owner. Owners think differently. Owners get rewards that come from ownership and take pride that comes with being an owner. And that's a very big deal for Clearwater Capital. It's a part of our culture. The quarterly dividend checks that we pay, to our shareholders, our unit holders, certainly doesn't hurt. But there's an entrepreneurial culture that is backed up with us all actually being real owners.
Okay, but let's pause on that for a second, because some people look at that and be like, okay, is that just for people in relationship management? What does that mean for the centers of excellence? What does that mean for an analyst, somebody in operations? And when you say everyone,
I mean everyone. So it's baked into our bonus structure with annual equity grants. And after a period of time with the firm, everybody is invited into that structure. And by the way, it was said many times before in my podcast, certainly, and in other places like our symposiums, but we're not building ourselves to be sold. This is a multi-generational proposition. So this firm, I hope, is around for 10, 15, 50 years from now and longer. So by not building it to be sold and inviting everybody on the team into an equity position of one sort or another, and it's different incentives and different requirements for how that all comes together, is a very powerful thing. We'll have less turnover. We'll have more committed players. We will attract serious players who understand that the rewards with ownership are significant over time, and that's what we want to do. Yeah. We could have held on to all the stock ourselves and just asked our employees to do their thing and enrich just a handful of people, but we decided that by sharing it, it's going to be a much bigger pie in the end for all of us.
Yeah, and so on that ownership, because I agree with it, it's such a big deal, and the team members thinking like owners when it comes to spending and spending decisions, right? And you talked about the dividend that we pay quarterly to everyone that's participating and owning a share, that there is that dividend day as we look at it on a quarterly basis. So individuals that are like, well, I want to own my own thing. I don't want to be an employee. It's like you'd have a seat at the table, right? And coming alongside. Mm-hmm. Now, when we're talking about this, here's what we're offering. The skeptic that might be listening out there is like, okay, so you've lined up a bunch of private equity money and you're just going to go out and be an aggregator yourself. Speak to that individual that could be a skeptic wondering what our motives are.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's a big no to private equity for us. And it's not that private equity is wrong. It just doesn't fit our model and it doesn't fit our vision. We are fiercely independent. We will always be independent. We want to run our own show. And in that regard, I think the ownership will be people from within as opposed to, bringing somebody from the outside. But as far as our ability to invest, John, and grow, we've reached a point in time where now out of net free cash flow, there is an accumulation of resources that are available to us to do acquisitions and to possibly even with some leverage, not a lot, with some leverage, extend that beyond just the cash that we have. So there's a vision there for making very, very good choices and very careful choices, but to grow and invest in the practice in ways that'll take us way past the next level and beyond.
And so before we get to the for whom, like whom are we speaking to? We talk about, character and competency, what's the profile? But before we even get to that piece, where? So if there's listeners, because we do have listeners, Haley shared with me, we've got listeners that pick up from around the world that end up listening to this, which again is just a little bit mind-blowing to me, right? This is
who knew?
I still don't consider myself a podcaster. What's that about?
You and Joe Rogan.
Yeah, right. And so when we step back and think about that, we do have we got families over in Western Europe, but we have 38 states covered in the U.S. If we're looking to expand, what does geography mean to us? And then when we come back to the for whom are we actually looking to join the team?
John, I think one of the good things to come out of COVID is it taught us all that geographies aren't what they were years ago, where everybody has to sit in the same room or under one roof in order to be fully functional as a team member. There are certain advantages to being face-to-face, but there's work that can be done, and there are people that we can have part of our team who aren't necessarily domiciled at our headquarters here in Illinois. We already have two, of course, instances of that. We have a very talented portfolio manager in Indianapolis. We have an advisor in Kansas City. These were done kind of on a beta test basis where we're like, all right, let's see how it works. Let's see if we can figure this out. And if you attract the right people who are self-managed and very, very committed to their craft and to their responsibilities on the team, it can work.
Yeah.
It needs to be supplemented, I do believe, with a lot of trips in and out of Chicago so that they do feel a part of the team and there's good communication even when they're not here. But by making sure that we are involving them in every way possible, they don't feel like they're an outpost. I guess the answer to your question is we would entertain the right opportunity in just about any geography. As you say, we have clients in 38 states. We could have advisors in 38 states, for
Right.
that matter. I mean, there's no reason for us not to consider the right opportunity simply because of geography.
Right. Right. And that is that just for individuals that could be hired in, whether it's center of excellence or in an advisor relationship type role. But that's also true for what if there's a team out there?
A team. I think that the profile of what we're looking for, John, is we've reached a point now where we're looking to have conversations with established players. Established players could mean a lot of different things. People are at different points in their career. They could be early career, mid, late career. The profile of their actual business or their client base is all going to be a little bit different. But these are people who will have distinguished themselves as being successful long-term players. Now, it might be $100 million. It might be a few $100 million. It could be a team with $500 million. As long as the non-negotiables that we set forth earlier, character and competency, are there, and there's a like-mindedness for what it is we're trying to achieve in creating life-changing value for clients, then we should talk.
Yeah.
And we'll have a lot of conversations. Many of them may not come to fruition, but those that do, I think, will be very special.
And so that's smaller, when I say smaller, RIAs. So is it only registered investment advisory firms that we're looking at? I mean, I turned the corner a little bit in this from geography to whom, but this is teams. Is it teams within an RIA itself, teams maybe within a larger brokerage?
Yeah.
How would a listener discern whether they think they're a fit with us or not?
I would start with the like-mindedness, because one of the great things about being truly independent is we get to write the script. And how many times have we gotten ourselves involved with something, or we hired somebody that we weren't necessarily even looking for at the time, but Providence enters in and an opportunity opens up for us and we were able to capitalize it, and it led to really, really great things.
Yeah.
So I think that it's hard to prejudge or preconceive how they all should look. I am open to a lot of conversations. I'm open to a lot of possibilities, as I know you are. And if we just increase the velocity of those conversations, we are going to find those players who will be a great fit for our firm and who will do wonderful things for their clients at Clearwater.
And so like-mindedness, we hit a little bit of the character and the competency side. Is there anything when it comes to philosophy of service that someone should be dialing into going, this is what we mean by like-mindedness? What does that look like? And then, and maybe is equally as important, what is it not, right? What is it if you want to do this kind of work, that's just not a fit with us?
Yeah. Like-mindedness, John, I think kind of starts and is encapsulated with this idea of consulting versus selling. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people in our industry that are still operating under the product delivery model. And that's not us, and that's not who we want to be. So we're not a product-centric product delivery organization. We aspire to the disciplines of true wealth management, and that leads us in a lot of different directions. But we understand what those disciplines are, and they're not going to change overnight. And we have to do the hard work. So it's not a sales type of a proposition, and it's not a product-centric proposition. It's a client-centric, deeply committed, long-term view of how we best serve clients.
And so when we look at, and we've shared on previously episodes, when we look at the service standards, a lot of this also looks at the learnings from Family Wealth Alliance, where starting later this year, I'm going to be serving on the advisory board to Family Wealth Alliance within the multifamily office space. And there's a lot that we give into the organization. There's a lot that we've benefited from learning and accelerating our own learning curve and engaging in that way. So the recognition I mentioned about both James and Tyler earlier being recognized as young professional, Katie being on the roundtable for client experience and marketing and learning there, and now being on the advisory board. So when we look across these 10 service standards that they established for a family office, one, investment and portfolio management, very big deal. One being financial planning, one being estate and tax wealth transfer strategies, one being philanthropic planning, right? So the list goes on. Is there any of those areas that you'd step back and say, yeah, we need philosophical alignment on a few different things for people to say that they're coming on? Because you say it a little bit differently previously. We don't want to be a loose confederation of a bunch of individuals doing different things.
Yeah.
Individuals that want to lead relationships, be strategy, advise, would be tapping into the centers of excellence, which means there has to be some philosophical alignment regarding how our centers of excellence are actually even running.
Yeah.
What would that look like, and what could potentially be some considerations for people?
Well, it's very powerful, as we know within the organization, to operate as a single team of production. You make reference to something I've said many times over the years, is that we don't want to be that loose confederation of players whose only commonality is we share a copy machine, or we share the name over the door.
Right.
Our value proposition is highly integrated with all of us and all of our clients, and we all have important roles to play. And it's an individual who wants to join a team who operates as a team, as a collaborative body of professionals solving problems for clients. So it's not somebody who has their own philosophy or they want to do something differently than what we're doing. That'll all be fleshed out in productive conversations, exploratory conversations with people who are curious and think there may be something here. But it really needs to be understood that this is who we are, and this is who we're going to be. And if you want to be part of it, it's really very special. Right. But we're not going to change to become something different.
So before we get to the how, because we've hit a little bit of the why we're doing this, right? Why we're now at this point in our history saying it's the right time for continuing to unleash the potential that's there, given the foundation, the structure, what that means geographically, for whom it would be a good alignment. But before we get to the how, I'm going to come back to a little bit of a rapid fire separate, because you're a prolific reader, right? So, going back to a little bit where we started since the last episode, what's a book that you'd be encouraging listeners to say, go out and get this book because it's the top one of your list from the last year?
John, with the release of the new website, I'm going to have a little space on my part of the pages that is going to be John's book reviews. And I've highlighted a number there, and I will continue to add to that. But one of the ones that I really, really love is something called Deep Work by a gentleman by the name of, his last name is Newton. I don't recall his first name at the moment. But it's this idea that in a world where we tweet messages or X messages now back and forth, and we live in these tiny sound bites of fragmented thinking, there's real value to be had in learning how to do deep work. That's uninterrupted, deep dive, hard work that it's kind of a lost art form for many in today's world. I love that book. I would highly recommend that. I'm working right now through Isaacson's biography of Elon Musk, which is fascinating.
Okay. Now you're the second person in 48 hours that's
told
right?
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Musk is everything. He's in every headline it seems these days.
Yeah, it's true
but
too.
it's a thick book, but it's very well put together. It's very well written, and I'm not finished with it yet. But I think I'm far enough along that I could recommend that one as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we didn't talk about that, but we talked about the deep work for someone that wants to serve their clients very deeply in these relationships that we have, to be able to tap into what we've built. And I'm just, we didn't talk about this in preparation, so it's kind of just an interesting part of the conversation in my own mind. Linking that up is you can be allowed to do deep work when you've got a team around you that provides the capabilities because they're doing their respective deep work in what they're doing. And I think about Tyler, right, and just investment portfolio management, what we've done in private markets. We're working through a co-investment opportunity right now directly that I'm not and can't mention the name that we're working through, but the access that we have to a very, very significant private direct investment in this co-investment opportunity that's there for our clients is a testament to Tyler's deep work of years of due diligence and structuring around our private markets platform that allows us to do deep work then back in that relationship management advisory role, because we can tap into that team around us too. So I just love that ability where you can go, everyone can go deeper, because not all of us can know everything. And you can't solve cyber, and you can't solve fiduciary, and you can't solve systems and technology and portfolio management if you're trying to do it on your own. You want to be part of a broader team, which again, I'm so proud of our team. And as we've said often, not only do we need a bigger boat, but we're just getting started in terms of what we're building. And so for individuals out there that might be like, I'm intrigued by this conversation, what would be their next step then? What would be their call to action? Well, how would they then say, here's I want to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, I would say start with taking a look at us. I mean, we're out there. All firms are out there. There's a social media presence. There's a digital presence that we have like other firms. Check us out. Listen to other podcasts in this Entrepreneurial Legacies series, because I think that tells the story of how we think and who we are and the people that we're working with and the problems that we're solving. So listen to some of those podcasts. And then ultimately, John, it is as simple as just reaching out and having a conversation. You and I, as the senior leaders of the organization, have put ourselves out there many times and will continue to have those conversations. Our biggest challenge, I believe, is going to be in the talent acquisition. And if we commit ourselves to finding and bringing on board the best talent within the industry, how could our firm not be successful?
Yeah.
So that is job one. It's a priority today. It's going to be a priority 2 and 3 years from now. So anybody who wants to explore with us what that might mean, what that might look like, from equity to responsibilities to the operating model, to what does it even mean to have a seat at the table? Because that's one of the things that we offer.
Yeah.
We're writing the script every day, and we really love the idea of having a diverse idea stream of people who have different life experiences, who can bring their wisdom and their insight to whatever it is that we might be working on at the time. So we just will unpack with people who want to engage all of that. And if it makes sense to have continued conversations, we will. If it doesn't represent a good fit, we will have had a pleasant conversation with a nice person or a nice team of some sort, and we can move on.
Yeah. Yeah. So before I give you the opportunity for kind of a closing thought and closing word, I've already encouraged everyone to go back and listen to episode 1, which is your episode in terms of the history. Then I encourage them to listen to episode 25, where Katie and I did a rundown of the first 24 episodes. So if you want the glossary, the index of all of the different episodes, listen to that one as Katie and I unpack, because that could lead different individuals to say, I want to go listen to, Trish Oslin still blows me away in terms of her story narrative and what that means back to challenges and heroes and guides. And it's just great. Tom Livergood and Family Wealth Alliance, and what does it mean to be a multifamily office when they represent nearly $1 trillion of assets under management across the network of firms that are part of that. There's just some really great episodes. And again, the people that we serve and the clients that are represented there, and hearing firsthand from their words is just extremely humbling too. So I do encourage people, go back and take a listen, check us out. I think that is a great way for individuals that may want to join the team, or for individuals that are checking out and wanting to know if they could be served by a firm like ours, because not everybody's a fit there either. And we want to make sure that we have a good fit for the people that we're serving to give our best to as well. So John, in closing thoughts as we wrap up this segment, and I promise we'll have another one, maybe in another 25 episodes.
All right.
As long as Haley keeps us going, right? Haley, a lot of people ask, and Haley on the team, another area of excellence that we're developing when it comes to communications. I tell people that, it's a crazy idea starting this podcast. Haley's actually going to turn us all into something in terms of how this runs forward too. So glad she's part of the team as well. John, closing thoughts.
John, I guess what I would highlight and what I hope resonates clearly in this conversation, and the first one that we had, is I truly love what we are achieving and continue to achieve as a team. What we're doing is it goes well beyond anything I originally thought was possible, but we have had so many 2 + 2 = 5 moments, and we continue to add them on, that we're going someplace really, really special. Secondly, I truly love the people who we've chosen to be on this journey with us. It's great to show up in the office every morning and see friendly faces and people that we socialize with and we recreate with and that we know their families. And it is truly a family for us at Clearwater. So I love the people that we have on our team. I love the clients that we serve, many of whom we got to know better through this podcast platform. But you think about the people that we have been aligned with for many, many years. It's a little scary to think back to say, hey, I've been talking to this person and interacting with them and a part of their lives for nearly 2 decades. Right. And we don't, one of the great things about our firm is we don't have attrition. Our clients really, they stick with us through thick and thin, and they're very loyal, and we work very hard on their behalf, and they know that. Yeah. So I love the clients that we work with. I guess just in closing, I would also add that I love the fact that we still get up every morning and we feel like we're just getting started. Yeah. That our best days are still in front of us, and there's so much more wonderful things that we can do, and we're going to keep leaning into it, and we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. It's like a big smile on my face. I could repeat everything you just said because I absolutely agree with it. Really humbled and thankful, right, for the invitation to myself to be on this ride. Nothing I would have ever dreamed up for myself. But when that invitation came to say, hey, do you ever consider this? No, I hadn't. And I'm grateful for it. Doesn't mean it's easy, but so grateful for the opportunity to then turn around and have the opportunity to serve people the way that we do. And it's the way that we do and the way that we want to serve that is that unleashing the potential back for those families that we serve too. So thank you for the invitation to me. If others want to engage in that dialogue, again, please reach out. John mentioned you can check us out. Katie gave a lot of information in the last episode for how you can learn more about us. If you go to our core website for Clearwater Capital Partners, it's ccpwealth.com. So you can go to the website. Our contact information is out there. So as John mentioned, feel free to give John or myself, either John Chapman or John Sleeting, a call. Just let the person answering the phone know who you'd want to speak to, John Chapman or John Sleeting. Give us a call. We'd entertain. Every relationship starts with a virtual cup of coffee at times, or a real cup of coffee if you're here in the Chicago area. If you'd like to continue this conversation for the podcast specifically, or you have questions, send us an email at clearconversations@ccpwealth.com. Have a blessed day.